keep my function. Keep not working for that for some reason. Now what I'm going to do here is just inset it a bit. Okay, extrude again, and the Y, scaling it. Alright, again. And maybe I'm going to pull that section out a little bit more. Extrude. And we'll just make an end cap out of that. Pull that out just a little bit. Okay, so let's see what we have. I'm going to mesh smooth this. So you can see that you can get a real sort of jello-y looking object, which is good for some rims on this particular feature out here. But on other rims where you want it to look more chiseled, not so much. Looks a little jello-y. So let's go back in here, 1 on the keyboard, and begin to sharpen up some of these edges that we want to keep sharp. And I'm going to come right in here first with my edge loop tool and begin to define these edges that I want to make sure stay nice and sharp. Alright, so I'll go ahead and sharpen that up, keep that nice and sharp. And I may want to just drop one in here to keep the shape strong. And all of these, of course, we want to make sure these are nice and chiseled. If I start throwing in edge loops here, you can see that they're going to come all the way down into my cap. I don't want that, so what I'm going to do before I do that is to select certain areas of this and extract those so that I don't increase my poly count more than I actually need to. Alright, so getting something that's a little less doughy looking. Getting some nice sharp edges in here. Keeping some of the sharp edges in here, but again, this is not nearly as much sharpness as I want to keep in these objects out here. So I'll select that, go back to 1, and now I'm going to come in here and select on the objects, the faces that I want to sharpen up just a little bit. Alright, so now let's go ahead and extract these, mesh, extract, and those will create a separate object for those. Now I can go ahead and smooth that, see what I have. Yep, I don't want to put a couple more in here to maintain that shape. Let's begin by doing that. Add edge loop. Now, because this is a separate object, it's not going to react, it's not going to respond the same way by dropping them in all the way around. So I have to do them a bit more manually. That's why I want to make sure to maintain the object and work with it in its original form as much as possible. Alright, so we have those. Let's try this again with smoothing this object. And that is maintaining that edge the way that I want it to now. Alright. And if you don't like the appearance of this being more squared off, what you can do is come in here and add edge loops the other way. So I'll drop, say, one in, oops, let's come back to one. I'll drop one in here. Actually, let's go ahead and extract that cap before we begin here. I want the end cap as a separate object as well. So let's go ahead and select those faces of. Okay, we'll deal with that in a minute. Alright, so just smooth that. Alright, so we're going to want to build in those additional curves here now so that we can make a little bit more shape in here. So go back to one and drop in those edge loops. Alright, there we go. Alright, now what we can do is grab the verts on these. So I'll grab all the way down to that particular. Usually you'll want to make these kinds of engineering adjustments before you drop in all of your additional edge loops, but let's go ahead and see what we have. It's just an example for you, and go ahead and scale those in, and now you have a little bit more shape. And when you come here to mesh smooth, it'll give you a little bit nicer arc in there. Alright, so let's move on to this object. We're going to scale this up slightly and probably set it back over the rim there. Let's go with extruding the lip here. Alright, double click on that and extrude. Yep. Pull that out away from there. Alright, so good. Okay, now what we can do is come in here and grab, try to get rid of this polar surface as much as possible, and grab these edges and delete those, create some quads in there. We're getting a little bit better appearance. Oh, I want that lip a little sharper, kind of went away, so come back to one. Clean that up with some additional definition in here. Again, we're adding a lot of polygons, which we typically would not do for games, but since this is for advanced modeling and you are creating primary characters, primary vehicle characters for your scene as well as your portfolio, we're going to go ahead and do that. Alright, so, and I'm also going to come in here, grab this vert and pull it out just a little bit. Alright, let's see what kind of result we have now. Smoothing. Okay, and that's looking a little bit like, more like I want it to. And get a nice disc feel there. Alright, let's move on to our spokes. We're going to come in here and define those a little bit more. So we get a nice clean spoke on that. And I'm also going to put one right down the center to maintain the flat. Alright. Right on the edge there. Alright, so let's grab these and smooth those. Now we have a little bit more of what we're looking for here. Alright, so those are a couple of examples of how you can create a rim, and in our next lesson we'll come back in here and create a little bit more of the mechanics that come back in here, the caliper, the disc that you see from the brakes, the disc brakes, and get this on our car.